Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorn, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
I'm here today with Shawn Tobin from Tobin Longhorns, and you are located in Wessington Springs, South Dakota. Is that right, Shawn?
Yep.
So how's the weather there today?
Well, today's actually really good. Usually we're kind of cold, but it's been a good winter so far.
Good. And just since the bulk of our listeners are in Texas, tell them what a good winter is in South Dakota.
Well, right now it's like just about 40 degrees here. We're supposed to be in the 60s today, but a good winter is usually around that 20-degree mark. Last year we hit negative 20, and I don't think we ever come out of it until May.
Yep, that's here in Iowa. That's when you know it's getting bad too, is when it hits those negative numbers, or the wind chill gets down to the negative numbers. Then you're hurting a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me today. We're just going to talk a little bit about your program, some of your favorite Longhorns. So are you ready to get started?
Sure.
Well, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself other than your location?
Okay. I guess I grew up farming and ranching just south of town here. Left right after high school, went out to the west side of South Dakota, out to Rapid City, was there for quite a while. Came back about 4 years ago. Started buying some cows and slowly growing. I'm also a independent owner operator in the trucking industry, and I also sell WW livestock equipment.
What made you?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead and finish. Sorry.
My wife, who's not here, she runs the convenience store here in town.
So how did you and Ellen get started in Longhorns? What led you down that path?
Well, I actually grew up with mom and dad raising Longhorns. They sold rope and stock and bulls to put on commercial herds and stuff back in the late 70s, 80s, 90s. They got out of it probably in the late 90s after I left high school. And then I've always kind of just liked the Longhorns. They kind of fell out of love with them or whatever. But when I moved back here, I decided just to start buying some. There was one guy that when my dad was involved with the Longhorns, that really took Dad under his wing and worked with him quite a bit. And he was always a really, he had a really great attitude on him. I don't think he ever saw the bad in anybody. His name was Bob Schultz out of Franktown, Colorado. He had a place called the Prairie Canyon Ranch. He mixed a lot of Butler cattle with refuge cattle, the Phillips cattle. The bouncer bull that Dickinson had, he come out of Bob's breeding. He was the one that, I think he actually bought the calf at sight on the cow, but Colorado Cowboy, that's where he come out of. Bob was a really great guy in the Longhorn industry. Unfortunately, he passed away about 8 years ago, but he was one that I kind of miss him.
So how did you, when you knew that you wanted to get started again, where did you go to find the animals for sale? Who did you buy some of your first ones from?
Well, truthfully, I didn't even know where to go to in this area. When I was young, I remember the name Mom and Dad used to talk about. But I heard about the top hand sale out in Rapid City. And we went out there. I went and got a bidder's number and sat there and just bought 3 heifers that first go around, and then talked to a guy about leasing a bull. He gave me another guy's number. I called him. I ended up buying a bull from him, and then I bought a few more cows from him since then. So and that was Scott and Jody O'Brien in Belvedere, South Dakota.
So sitting at that first Longhorn, well, let me ask you this first. When your parents had Longhorns, did you used to go to the sales with them, or was the sale in South Dakota kind of your first, your first experience at a consignment sale?
Oh no, when I was a kid, I mean, we'd always Fort Niobrara down in Valentine, Nebraska had a refuge sale down there. Dad would go down there every year. There was a few exotic sales back then, and I mean, there's still a few now, but they had one in Chamberlain, South Dakota. Dad go to that and stuff like that. But mostly, I mean, it wasn't back in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of that going on. You went to sale barn, picked up a commercial Longhorn cow.
So what did you think, kind of getting back into it, what did you think of that first sale at South Dakota that you sat through?
I seen some of them cows and went, well, these aren't the range cows that they used to be. I'm kind of in the 20 some years between that or whatever it was. I would pick up here and there or get on the internet and I was looking at different stuff and like, oh yeah, they've really come a long way since the 80s and 90s, but never was up close and personal with them, But
so what caught your eye about the three that you purchased at that sale?
Well, the one was actually my wife's favorite. So I was like, well, I'll bid on her and see how it goes. Ended up getting her. The second one actually came from the same breeding program. She was a lot heavier boned and a lot taller than the first one. And then the third one, it was a granddaughter out of Delta Lucky Ace. And I really started liking that bull, so I wanted to get that bloodline, and I got her bought too. So that was the three that I bought out of the first top hand sale.
So it sounds like you had done some research before that sale then, if you knew, some bulls whose offspring you liked and everything.
Yeah.
So do you still have those three in your herd today?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you think they'll have a forever home there?
Possibly.
Probably your wife's favorite, at least, right? Those tend to stick around a little longer.
Yeah. The one, they'll probably all three of them be in the herd till the day they die, just because those are the first three that I started with.
So how many head do you have now? How much have you expanded?
For breeding females, there's 18 total. And then I got the one bull and 9 calves at this year's calves. Yeah. Okay. I actually picked up some that were bred this year. So,
do you have a favorite calf?
I've got a few that there's something about each one of them that I like. I don't know if I've got an actual favorite one. I know my wife does, but there's
What's
just something about. What's that?
What's her favorite? Can we talk about that one?
That cow's name is Dazzling Sky, and that's the one that she picked out at that first top hand sale that I went to. Yeah.
So what appeals to her about the calf?
Well, when we got it, it was just a 13-month-old heifer, and it was a calf, and that's what, Ellen just, I got to have something that small, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, she thought it was going to be a puppy dog. She found out, and I don't know. To me, it's kind of funny. She found out that when they have calves, they're not something to mess with.
Yeah.
So, but she likes that one just because that was the one that she picked, and it'll probably never leave. Yeah.
So you said some of the calves on the ground are because you bought bred cows, but some of them are from your own pairings. What are you kind of trying to obtain with your breeding strategy? What are you striving for?
Well, to me, I guess the end result, no matter to me, the end result for any animal is going to be pounds on the scale. Beef market. So I want something, I'm breeding for something that's going to put pounds on pretty easy, high feed efficiency, which I know with Longhorns is a little tough to do, but I think it's out there. Between selling beef, but also selling the type of animal to other producers to put them pounds on the scale too.
So have you found at all that being in South Dakota is a little bit harder to make sales, or did you have a strategy in mind before you got started to move some of the animals?
In being in South Dakota, it is a little tougher. I remember as a kid, Dad was always, there's no money in the Longhorns. It's a tough market up here. And it's very true. Dad didn't do a lot of marketing down south. I think though there's getting to be a lot more people up here with Longhorns, and after I started buying some, I found out there was a lot more people here than what I thought there was. But the ones down in Texas, they talk about all the ones that are in Texas. Texas is a big state, huge state. So, you start looking at it, North Dakota, South Dakota, part of Wyoming, part of Montana, and Nebraska, we're about that size of Texas. And there's a lot of people here raising Longhorns. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to get out there and get them more involved in either the sales or being part of the different registries that are out there, and letting people know who is there.
So what have you and Ellen done to get more involved and to kind of lead that charge in your area? Well, I'm pretty busy, or I shouldn't say busy, but I joined the Great Plains Texas Longhorn Association. It's the affiliate of the TLBAA up here. Got involved with that, trying to help that grow, pushing the shows a lot more up here in Rapid City. I've looked into getting other shows going, like South Dakota State Fair, even doing something up in North Dakota. It's a slow process, and I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people up here that go, it's Longhorns that don't fit the beef market we got going. They're thinking about the 40-year-old or the cows and the bulls 40 years ago. So. Mm-hmm. When you say that you've been trying to get some shows going, do you mean halter shows, or are you also involved with trying to get like some new futurities moving?
A little bit of both. The Great Plains Association has threw around the idea of getting a futurity going. Right now, our biggest problem is finding the room. The deal that we have out in Rapid City every August there's a points only show, and then a regular world qualifying show. We've got the top hand sale goes on. There's a little bit of a horn measurement contest deal. We've got a small, they call it a bull alley, I call it a bull showcase. We've been showcasing up to 2-year-old bulls, up and coming bulls in this area. It's a 3-day deal. Right now, I would love to get that thing expanded. But it's just a matter of getting talked to with the Central States Fairground Board, finding more animals, and seeing if the guys down south will come up to South Dakota. We've got great weather in August, but it's a long drive.
Yeah.
Or even getting the people in this area more involved too. I'll be honest, I haven't showed anything of my own in them shows, but I do plan on it now that I've got some that are carrying my own brand.
So what would be the best advice that you feel like you could give someone who's thinking about getting into Longhorns in your area?
Just do it. Start. Don't give a care about what all your neighbors are saying. That's my opinion.
That's just good life advice in general, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't care too much about what other people think. So let's switch gears a little bit here.
Yeah.
Do you have any funny Longhorn stories you can share with us?
I don't know how funny it is. I kind of was laughing. My dad was kind of laughing about it after I bought them first heifers and I got that bull. They got bred late. They were late June, early July calves. Dad called me, and I was out hauling chemical, putting on fields of fertilizer and pesticides and whatnot. But anyway, Dad called and he says, "You got a couple of calves on the ground." And I said, "Really?" He says, "Yep." He said, "Out of one cow." And I said, "Oh, bull crap." He's like, "No." He says, "In 20 some years of raising Longhorns," he says, "I never ever had a set of twins." He says, "I can't believe you got a set of twins." He says, "They're big." I started, "Yeah, okay, whatever, da 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 da." He always likes to pull my leg, especially when it comes to having them Longhorns there. And anyway, so I showed up that night or whatever and go out and feed or whatever, check them or whatever I was doing. But sure enough, there's two calves on the ground. He walks out there. He says, "I've never had a set of twins." He says, "They're big too." He says, "That might be a good cow." She never did raise both of them. I put one on a milk cow just to not pull her down too much, being a first-time heifer. So.
Nice. So I think that's pretty unusual in general for twins, right?
Yeah, first-time heifer, and I was really surprised. They were 50 pounds apiece, which is gigantic, I think, for a set of twins. Yeah.
You still have them today?
I've got one of the twins. They were twin heifers. I've got one. One died. She got something out in the pasture. We wasn't ever for sure. The vet never did figure it out, but she died at about 10 months old.
Okay. Yeah. So earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that you kind of like one of the bulls out of Dunlucky Dice, right?
Well, the heifer that I bought, she was a grand out of him.
Okay.
Out of Lucky Ace, yeah.
Lucky Ace. I'm sorry. Yep. I knew it was something there. I need more coffee this morning. So where I was going with that question is I was going to ask you to list a few more of your kind of all-time favorite bloodlines, all-time favorite Longhorns.
Well, I was thinking about this last night. I do like Drag Iron. I liked a lot of his daughters, but I like a lot of bulls and cows from way back when. I think Range's Measles was one of the better cows ever out there. I mean, she was a beefy stock cow. Mm-hmm. But they've come a long way since then too, you know. There's a lot of difference in all these bloodlines. You got some beefy stuff, you got some horn stuff. It's just a matter of trying to get them put together. But to me, Drag Iron got a lot of it put together, and he throws a lot of it on his heifers. Or did.
So you mentioned the measles cow. Do you like the handlebar? Like, is the handlebar horns your favorite?
Oh yeah. I really like handlebars. Yep. Yeah.
And you don't see them that much anymore.
No. A couple of the ones that I've got it. There are a couple of Trail Dust daughters. And then some were out of, they come from Sanders breeding up there in North Dakota, which they go back to a lot of what Dickinson had. I mean, I like a good set of handlebar horns. Really, as long as everything complements each other. I mean, they could be flat lateral horns. They could be low swooping horns. As long as they complement everything else with that animal, you know, like I said, there's a lot of different genetics going on.
Mm-hmm. So what's something that you would want everyone listening or all of your fellow Longhorn breeders to know about your program or about where you're trying to take your program?
Well, I guess being new, it's still going to take a while to build up to where I want it to be. But I guess, like I said, the goal is to put out animals out there that are putting pounds on the scale and not losing the quality traits that the Longhorns had from 40, 50 years ago, too.
Is this your brand on your shirt here?
Yep. I don't know how to do this.
You're good. So that's what
my
folks
stepdaughter
can.
made the sweatshirt, so.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
Well, can we talk about your website for a little bit?
Sure.
And just websites in general. I'm going to hit you with some questions here. So what would you say that the average amount of time you spend looking at Longhorn websites in a week is?
Oh, it varies. I'll be honest with you. It varies quite a bit because with trucking and stuff like that, sometimes I might only get on the computer about an hour a week. Sometimes it might be 20 hours a week. So there's a big spread of what I get on the computer and check out stuff. So
what are you looking for when you get on Longhorn websites?
Oh, good beefy style cows. Something that's got some weight to it. 12, 13, 1,400 pound cows. So I'm, mature cows or whatever. And the reason with that is because I'm still in the process of, I weigh and measure just about everything that I've got. Started doing it this year, went and bought the scale and everything. So I want to take that bigger animal and see where that offspring is going to be at certain ages. That way I can guesstimate later what that 6-month-old heifer is going to be at maturity.
So when you do have time to look at websites, what would you say your top 3 most visited are?
Right now, Metcalf's, Dickinson's, and just because he's kind of local to me, and I think he's got some good stock up there. Chad Smith.
So with Metcalf's, is it more their location as it relates to you, or is it their type of cattle?
Type of cattle. Yeah. I really like that color that they've got going on out there. I like their sizes. Chad's is, he's pretty low. Well, he's about 6 hours yet from me, but, I think he's got some good cattle up there, and he's making a push to get bigger horn and stuff up there.
He's also been in it for a long time too, similar to your family. So he knows his genetics very well, probably knows what's gonna produce good results. So
yeah. Oh yeah. And and I gotta say about Daryl Dickinson, he's been doing this since '67. He probably knows a lot of his crap. I've only talked to him once personally on the phone about a bull, but I look at his website and look at some of them sizes of them cows and stuff like that, and kind of the direction I want to be going with them cows.
Have you ever gotten to go out there in person to visit?
No, I have not. I'd like to, but I haven't yet.
A good summer road trip, maybe.
Yeah.
So do you use social media much for just keeping up with the industry or looking for new stock?
I'm trying to be better at it. I've got to work on it, put it that way. I've got to work on being able to use that social media to look for stuff and also for a promotion tool. I mean, I've got the couple of pages out there for my equipment stuff and the Longhorn stuff, but I don't utilize it like I should be.
Do you tend to lean towards Facebook when you get on social media?
Yeah, that's about the only thing I have. I do have an Instagram account for my equipment deal, but if I'm on Facebook once a week for my equipment, I'm on Instagram maybe once a month. I'm horrible at it.
Baby steps, right?
Yeah.
I feel like all it takes is, for someone to sell one or make that connection that's going to lead to a ranch visit or something, and then they use a little bit more.
Yeah.
So how long has your Hired Hand website been live?
I think it went live late part of September, early October, somewhere in there of 2023.
Okay. And what's the URL for all of our listeners?
www.tobinlonghorncattleco.com.
And if you had to describe your website in 3 words or less, what would they be?
I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget it. Easy to use.
Love it. That's a good one. Do you feel like you put a lot of thought into like the hierarchy of your pages and the organization of your content, and that's why it's easy to use? Or what do you think makes it stand out in that regard?
The easy to use thing is the pedigree deal, and being able to put in all the weights and measurement stuff. When I called you guys, I told Angie, I says, you do it. Here it is, and you do it. And I think she did a really good job putting what I got together.
Good. Yeah. We try to make it easy. Angie's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you were thinking about getting a website, what kind of tipped you over the edge to go with Hired Hand? Was it the pedigree stuff again, or?
The pedigree stuff, and you guys have been doing this for quite a while. You know the ins and outs of that Longhorn deal. I think what you guys have put together is phenomenal for what producers are doing.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we work for. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about your website, about the internet, about your breeding program? Did we cover everything?
I think so. The one thing I wish that the Longhorn business would do, or industry would do, is put the EPDs out there. That is one thing I think that they're falling behind on.
I think there's a small group of breeders that are trying to get that moving. I know we've talked with some of them about where that information can go on their websites, and possibly making an enhancement to calculate that automatically in the future and stuff. So I don't think you're alone in that request or mission.
Yeah. I guess one thing or I shouldn't say one thing. Scott O'Brien told me something one time, and it's kind of stuck with me. And it was talking about getting the youth involved in Longhorns and whatever. If they're not involved, you're not going to have a breed later on. Well, the other, I look at it with the cattle too. I know that they like to show these off as a historical cattle, but if they keep showing them off as historical cattle, that's what they're going to be, as history. If they think I think they're a good beef breed. I mean, that's what built the beef market in the United States was Longhorn cattle. And they need to bring that back. We need to figure out something to do like the certified Angus did.
In what regard? How so? For those folks that don't know what you mean.
Well, certified Angus, they put a push behind it for the premiums that they paid for meat, for beef. And you see it in just about any store, or in even fast food joints, certified Angus beef, certified Angus burger. And they started making a lot of money on that. And you see, I'm going to say, well, I'll put it this way. So all of a sudden, Simmentals went from being white to being black. Now you got black, white. Well, Herefords went from red and white to black and white. Of course, you get that in their F1 crossbred too. But there's a lot of cattle that were never black before. They're black-hided now. And that just, as long as they got a black hide on them, they say they're certified Angus. That really brought up their sales. You know, if we can put something, Hereford's doing it now too. They've got a certified Hereford deal out there. If we can get something going that shows, I don't know, the health benefits. I mean, there's deals out there saying what the health benefits are. But if they made a big push to start really promoting Texas Longhorn beef, I think you would see a big change in the sale markets.
Mm-hmm.
To me.
Great points. No, those are all.
Maybe I didn't explain that right or good enough, but.
No, I mean, it was essentially a very well done marketing campaign, you know, with some organized co-ops or breeders behind it. Yeah. So it's a simple concept, but they pulled it off very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nope, I totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Any other advice or insight that you have?
I'm probably one of the worst ones to say something about advice because I'm pretty new yet. You know, I've only 18 head or 18 cows, 3 years. But I feel like
you have that perspective though, having a family that, you know, went through it when you were younger. So that I think adds to your experience for sure.
See, and that was a big difference back then, I think, where a lot of guys had big weighted bulls, and when they were doing their F1 crosses, F2 crosses, or whatever, they went with Longhorn bulls to get them weights down for calves. And there was a lot of Longhorn bulls got sold way back when on black cattle. A lot of black-headed cattle went through the sale barns. But like I said, things have changed. There's low birth weight Angus, low birth weight Herefords out there. There's even low birth weight Simmentals. So they didn't need the Longhorn bull as much, which to me really hurt the Longhorn industry. Now they went back to being just roping cattle. But I think if we can push it to show these people that there's still a viable beef market with them, I think that'll bring the sale barn prices around. I'm not saying everything should go to the sale barn. But there needs to be an outlet more than just roping calves and private treaty sales or whatever. You know, I'm probably getting a little bit long-winded here, but there's a lot of guys, I shouldn't say a lot of guys. There's a lot of different ways to market Longhorns. And there's only been a push on about 2 or 3 different ways. My opinion.
Well, maybe you'll get a few phone calls to get some of these other ways going once people hear your opinion.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll include some of the breeders that you mentioned and your website address and all of that in the show notes for the listeners to go check out.